Kay Jewelers early Black Friday sale is happening now. Get up to 50% off Black Friday deals and up to 40% off everything else. Don't miss this sale. Start your season with savings, only at Kay. Exclusions apply. See K.com/exclusions for details.
Hey guys, and welcome to the podcast. I've got a fantastic guest for the audience today, Jason VanDevere from Ohio, and he is a e-commerce store owner, but he's also parlayed that into writing books. He's got a podcast. He's also an active real estate investor, and he's got an amazing story. He turned down a multi-million-dollar business deal to pursue his own dreams, and it's going to be a story-filled, inspirational fireside talk. And I'm really happy to have Jason on. So welcome, Jason.
Hey, thanks for having me here.
Yeah. And briefly introduce yourself and we'll dive into the content and the questions.
Yeah. I'm Jason VanDevere. Want me to give like a high level view of my what I do for a living, or just name is good? I'll let you guide me from there.
Yeah. Because you turned down your family's multi-million-dollar business, and then you went out, you succeeded in e-commerce. Now you wrote a book. And so talk about that journey.
Yeah. Growing up, I worked for my family. My dad is a car dealer in Akron, Ohio. So if you ever come here, you'll see my last name, VanDevere, all over. VanDevere Chevy, VanDevere Cadillac, VanDevere Kia. They got 5 dealerships. So I was supposed to be part of the 4th generation to own and manage these portfolio of dealerships. And the program my dad had me on was I had to work in every department until I could learn the whole business, and then I could one day take over family dealership. But somewhere on that journey, I realized it wasn't what I wanted to do with my life. And even though literally everyone told me it was a crazy idea, I decided to turn down the opportunity of the family business, leave with basically nothing. And I pursued a dream of mine, which was to design a planner and start selling it online called Goal Crazy. So I started selling these planners, and then people started reaching out. They wanted more. So I started hosting workshops, which turned into courses and coaching programs. Most recently, my book, Dream Driven. And then somewhere along the side, I started buying rental properties. So that's kind of like my highlight reel for my career. I would say, just like most entrepreneurs, though, I'm figuring it out as I go and having a lot of fun.
And there's a lot to unpack there. A lot of our audience are doctors, lawyers, and dentists. A lot of them, their parents immigrated here, pursued the American dream, and basically told their kids, you're going to be a doctor, lawyer, dentist. And so how do you reckon, and then also people that are helicopter parents, and how do you go against the grain? Because you're basically stepping into a fortune, but you decided to do stuff on your own.
Yeah. I think the big thing is I took time to clarify what I really wanted to do with my life. In a strange way, seeing my dad at the car business gave me confidence to leave. My dad, he loves the car dealership. If you show up at one of them, you'll know if he's there because you'll just hear him. He's loud. He's excited. He just loves it. And seeing him in the business like that, I knew that's what I wanted. I wanted a business that lit a fire inside of me. And as I worked there, I realized I wasn't going to get it there. So I would say I started doing the soul searching of what do I actually want to do? What would I love to do with my life? And I think once you can answer that question, it's a lot easier to turn things down or to cut ties because you're pursuing a dream of yours.
Interesting. Talk about this, because this initial decision, because when Lehman Brothers collapsed, I turned in my keys, badge, and pager, and I said, I don't want to work for a hospital anymore. I'm going to invest in real estate. And I tell you, the first couple of years, it was painful. It was like people told me I was crazy and no income, and it was like struggling and just all this. Because everybody's telling you're crazy, and then you start to really believe it. So how do you reconcile this period of just learning and failure and growth?
Yeah. That word, I love how you use the word crazy. So my business is called Goal Crazy, right? And one of the reasons for that is when I first left the dealership, I spent over 6 months just interviewing successful entrepreneurs. And I wanted to figure out how they set their goals, how they track their goals. And that's what I based the design for my planner off of. But when I kept meeting with these people, that quality of crazy just kept coming up. After I would meet with somebody, I'd be explaining them to my friend or my girlfriend at the time. And I'd be like, this guy was crazy. He did this thing. And eventually it helped me realize that's what I want to help people do, is I want to help people have the confidence to pursue their crazy goals. I want them to go after what they really want. So I would say I wouldn't shy away from what's crazy. I would just lean into it. Now, I think when I'm talking with entrepreneurs, I'm going to it's kind of got to be a long answer to a question, but hopefully it gives people some guidance. Is I feel like there's two different approaches to entrepreneurship. One approach is what most people do is when they're trying to find a business idea, they do the easy money approach, where for that approach, they think, all right, what business would be the easiest to start that would earn me the most amount of money? And they go scouring the market for this. The problem with that is just like what you went through, starting a business is hard, right? And if there's no passion behind the business, if either the easy component or the money component disappear, which is likely to happen, then you're just going to quit because easy money was the foundation of the business. So a much better approach is what I call the dream-driven approach, where the entrepreneur scours their heart to figure out, what do you actually want to do with your life? What would light a fire inside of you? And then it's like, if the challenge that arises is greater than the desire you have, then you would quit and go find something else, right? But if there's a challenge, but your desire is so much more, then you're going to keep working to overcome it. So I think what allowed you to go through that and me to go through that is I found something that unlocked this great desire. There was a fire inside of me. I went like over 2 years struggling, barely getting by, stressed, working all the time. But because it was connected to a dream of mine, it was fun. I enjoyed the process of it.
I love that. And you talk about this triple L framework from your book, Dream Driven, and how anyone can discover their perfect business idea, even though they feel completely lost.
Yeah. Okay. Triple L. I'm going to come back to this in a minute because there's one kind of like earlier step. So with this dream driven approach, when I'm working with an entrepreneur to find their dream business, the very first step is I tell them they need to start dreaming every single day. You need to dream. And real quick, I want to separate what I mean by dreams versus goals. So everybody's probably very familiar with the concept of goals, right? Like goals, they're clear. They're something you actually want to do. They're time bound. Dreams, on the other hand, dreams are different. They don't have to be realistic. You're just asking your heart, what would I love to do? What would I love to experience? They don't have to be realistic. They can be unlimited. There are things you may or may not actually do in your life. You just let your heart dream without limits. And I encourage people to do this every day for at least 10 minutes. Every morning, I go down into our basement, put in my earphones, I listen to some music that inspires me, and I just pace around dreaming about the type of life that I'd love to live. And when I encourage people to do this, they just dream about the business they want. They start to unlock these business ideas that have a fire behind it. So once you find this, you start creating this list of your dream business ideas. There's 3 steps to validating, are these good business ideas? And the first step is you got to figure out, is the fire inside of you big enough? And that's where the triple L framework comes in. And the triple L framework, sorry if I'm moving too quickly through all this, but the triple L framework, there's 3 L's. 3 things that you look for when you have your list of business ideas, and you're trying to narrow that list of business ideas down to 1. So first, you want to ask yourself for each business idea, do you have a longing behind that business idea? We need something with a fire behind it. And an easy way to tell if the longing is big enough to succeed is it has to pass what I call the first alarm test. Are you willing to get out of your bed on your first alarm to start working on this business? If you're not, then I'll say you don't have enough desire, because you're going to run into challenges way more challenging than getting out of bed on your first alarm. The second thing I want for these business ideas is I want them to be lifting. And what I mean by that is I want it to lift you and raise you to a higher level in your life. Basically, when I'm working with a new entrepreneur, the business that they should be starting, just the idea of starting it should be such a big goal that right now it's outside of their current capabilities. They're not capable of starting that business. That way, the only way they can start that business is if they force themselves to improve. It's kind of like, I don't know if you follow Tony Robbins, but he says it's not about the goal. It's about growing to become the person who can achieve the goal. This business idea should force a better version of you to break free and live. If you already know exactly how to accomplish it, I'd say, look, that's not the right business idea. That's not even a goal in the first place. That's a to-do list item. Get it done, right? This should stretch you to grow. The third thing is your business idea should feel light. That's the third L. Does it feel light or does it feel heavy? Most of the time, even though this is more internal, when I ask an entrepreneur this, they can give me an answer. Does it feel light or does it feel heavy? Like the dealership, when I was working at the dealership, I was on a very straight trajectory towards a successful career, but it felt heavy, right? But working to start my planner business, even though it was very high likelihood of failing, I was working a ridiculous amount of hours. I had no clue what I was doing. It felt light. So when I'm working with an entrepreneur, I want them to use those 3 L's to nail down, is this a business that they actually want to start? And if it passes that, then they can move on to validating it in the market. But first you have to validate that it's truly the right business for you.
Yeah, interesting. And for the audience, we'll put the links in the show notes to Jason's resources. A follow-up question I have for you is, a lot of people, they dream of becoming entrepreneurs to get freedom, financial freedom, and some of them land into something that just sucks the life of. For example, like when I invested in real estate, I was like, once I got financial freedom, I hated real estate because it's just nonstop, just putting out fires. So how does entrepreneurship only equal freedom when done properly? And 3 things that every entrepreneur needs to know.
Yeah. I think that to escape, you don't want to be in that trap, right? People start these businesses to get freedom, and lots of times they become a slave to their business. I think the number one thing that they need to do is, when somebody's starting a business, I'll tell them, look, the business should be the means, it shouldn't be the end. The business should be the means, not the end. And what I mean by that is, the lifestyle that you want, that is the end, right? You need to define, here's the lifestyle I want, and then you can create the business that'll be the means to create it. But if you flip-flop those, if you make your business the end, then oftentimes entrepreneurs succeed and their business completely overtakes their life. I know for me specifically with real estate investing, I clarified at a very early time, like, here's the type of real estate business I want. Here's the type of freedoms I want it to give me. Here's the type of activities that I want to be doing. And as I started to buy more units, that was so helpful because I had this compass. Like, as I started to buy more units, the demands from my rentals started to increase. But because I had this vision, I could say, look, these activities do not fit in the vision. I need to hire these out. I need to find vendors. I need to find contractors. And I have a W-2 person who helps me with these. But if I didn't have that clear vision, then I would have been stuck. Clear goals, they give you the opportunity to say no. Otherwise, you're going to say yes to everything.
Interesting. Clarity. The other questions I have for you is, you talked about just this feeling of lightness, and statistically, most businesses fail. What are common traits that you see the ones that succeed?
Yeah. The dream driven. So just like how you have a podcast, right? I have this podcast. I've interviewed hundreds of entrepreneurs, and I feel like the entrepreneurs that succeed is they went after a dream of theirs, because this is the thing. Starting a business is hard. I don't want to be like talking somebody out of it, but it's just hard. And if you don't have a fire inside of you, you're just going to quit. But when you do, you're willing to do what you need to make your dream happen. So that goes back to that 3L framework. Like, you got to have something you're willing to work really hard on. Now, I do think another thing that you can do to reduce your chances of failing is, probably everybody remembers in math class, we learned that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, right? So whenever I want to grow a business or start a business, the first thing I do is I work to go find someone who's already started a business like that. And then I ask them how they did it. Boom. There's my straight line, right? So I would make it a mission. If you're starting a business and you're struggling, you're trying to get to the next level, you're just starting out, wherever you're at, you need to find somebody who is running a business like the one you want and ask them how they're doing it. And following proven strategies from them is going to save you the trouble of failing on all the other strategies.
Yeah. So, you talk about the importance of mentorship. How do you find them, and how do you get them to help you for free?
Yeah. So I break down 8 different ways in my book. So I'm going to start going through a list of them. You can cut me off whenever you're ready. All right. Maybe we can hit on 3 or 4 of them. So I think one of the best places to start would be your warm market, like your friends and family. Who do you know who started a business similar to the one that you want? And if you don't know anybody, who do you know who might know somebody who's well connected? Like, I've started multiple businesses where I didn't know anybody who had one like it, but I knew a few people that were well connected. Maybe they worked in marketing or they worked in that industry, and I'd ask them, hey, I'm trying to start this business. Do you know anybody who's done it you could connect me with? That's first place. Second one is I would start looking for networking activities, which I'm going to divide these into 2 categories. You have in-person, you have online. Ideally, I'd love to find in-person events. These are conferences. They might be local meetups, BNI groups, but even for really niche subjects, normally there's conferences. Like, there are conferences for people who like to write in planners, like super niche market. So you can find these people. And the great thing is, I've gone to a bunch of conferences. One, you learn from the speakers, but probably what's even more helpful for me is I get to meet the other people and I learn way more from them. Another way, you can do this online too. Probably there's going to be forums or Facebook groups where these type of business owners all are gathered. For example, a few years ago, there was a mobile home park available for sale. in our area. And I was thinking of buying it as an investment. And now I know nothing about mobile home parks. So one, I reached out to friends and family that I thought might know it. They connected or might know mobile home park owners. I got connected. I found these Facebook groups and forums where mobile home park owners were. And easiest way for me to get free mentors from there is I'll normally post a question in there that'd be really easy for an expert to answer, but would take me a long time. Like the mobile home park I was looking at, it had a wastewater treatment plant. And I had this specific question about a wastewater treatment plant. Handful of people responded to it, and everybody who responded, I sent them a private message and said, hey, thanks so much for your help. Any chance you'd be willing to hop on a quick 10 to 15 minute call with me? I'm clueless. I just need some guidance. And I had a handful of people connect with me there. Another way is I've cold called businesses. Going back to that mobile home park that was available for sale. I knew nothing, but there's dozens of other mobile home parks in our area. So I just started picking up the phone and cold calling other mobile home park owners and told them, look, I'm looking to buy the mobile home park down the street from you. I'm clueless. Can you give me any guidance? And many of them told me no, politely or not politely. But I found 2 or 3 of them that were so helpful. They were telling me what to look for. They were telling me, hey, I know the guy who services that place. Here's his cell number. He'll walk the property with you. I'm going to give one more and then you can cut me off here. I think another incredible avenue is looking for businesses for sale, similar to the one that you want to start. If there is a business for sale, it often gives you the opportunity to sit down with the owner and go through their profit and loss statement line by line or their balance sheet line by line and ask them questions. Hey, how are you getting this so high? How are you getting these expenses so low? Now, if I was looking for a business for sale, I would want to be upfront with the owner. I don't want to completely waste somebody's time, but I would tell them, look, hey, right now I'm thinking of getting into this business. I'm trying to decide, do I want to buy one that already exists or do I want to start one from scratch? Looks like buying one like yours could shortcut the process. And you might find that you find the perfect business and you just buy it and it shortcuts a few steps. Or you learn from them. And not that I want you to go steal their trade secrets, but you can learn things after talking to a few of these people on how to do this successfully for yourself. So hopefully there's some good ideas people can resonate with. I've got 8 of them in my book.
Yeah. So the other dilemma a lot of entrepreneurs face is, for example, they take the leap and they're working 60 hours per week, but then you talk about creating a business that takes 30 hours or less per week to run. So what's better? Like a lot of startup founders, they listen to this podcast and they burn out. 2 hours of sleep, caffeinated, and then they're trying to get that VC check. How do you reconcile these two differences?
Yeah, I think it comes back to the means versus the end. It's what do you want this business to look like? If you want it to run on 30 hours a week, then you got to form some strict office hours for yourself right out of the gate. If you're fine with working 60, then that's fine. I know from my personal experience, when I first started, I was working ridiculous amounts of hours, 60, 80 hours a week. And I would say that was the least productive time of my life. Now that I'm married, I have kids, I don't have, even if I wanted to work that many hours, I wouldn't be allowed. But I would say like my wife, my kids, they have made me way more successful because now it's not an option for me to stay up late working on my computer. Here's my set hours that I'm allowed to work, and I have to learn to be extremely productive with them. And if I didn't have a wife and kids, I probably would have been just not goofing off, but distracted with all these things. I don't know. I think maybe what the business requires is 60 hours a week. And if that's what you want, that's great. But otherwise, you need to be honest with yourself. If you only want to be working 30 hours a week, set those boundaries in place. It's going to force you to be more productive. It's going to help you realize when you got to hire things out, because if you start escaping that 30 hours, something's got to change.
Wow. Very insightful. A question from the audience is, how can you get your first customers even if you don't have an audience or following?
Yeah, obviously it'd be great if you had a giant following, right? If you had this large audience of your customers waiting for you. But the great thing is there are influencers out there who have already gathered your target customers together. And through influencer marketing, you can tap into them for free for them. So an example of this, like when I was launching my planner business, and I'll give steps on how to do this, but when I was launching my planner business, I didn't have an audience, right? But if I went on YouTube, I found that there were these influencers or podcast hosts that they had already gathered an audience of people who were interested in planners, who were interested in time management, interested in entrepreneurship. For me, with that business, I just started sending them my planners for free. I didn't even ask them to leave me a video review, but many of them did. They would leave me video reviews. They would invite me to come talk on their podcast, their show. Now, like with my book, I do have a little bit of an audience, which is great, but just like what I'm doing here with this podcast, is I'm looking for influencers who have already built an audience of my ideal target customers, and I want to come here and serve them, and it turns into a win, right? It should be a win for the audience. They learn something interesting. If you have a great guest, it makes the host look better, and it can be a win for me since I get to market to them for free.
How can people connect with you on your socials, check out your book, and check out your planner and learn from you?
Yeah. So my website is goalcrazy.com. My book is called Dream Driven. If you go on Amazon, you'll find it there. But I do have put together if somebody's trying to find that perfect business idea, one that lights a fire inside of them, I have a free course they can get at goalcrazy.com/idea. It'll walk you through some exercises to help you find the business that'll light the fire inside of you to make this all possible.
Awesome. I really enjoyed your talk in so many threads and themes and around your journey, and keep up the great work.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.